What's going on, my fellow degenerates? Passion here once again with another video with some Overwatch 2 gameplay. So it's the end of the season. That means you know what time it is. It's time for our end of season retrospective in our Was It Good series. So this is going to be for season 18, Stadium Quickplay. If you've never seen how one of these go, I go through about 8 or so categories of aspects of the season, give my thoughts on it, and a school grade rating for each section, and then I give a school grade rating for the overall season at the end. So, without further ado, let's jump into our number one, as we usually do, with theming. So, for the theming for this season, I really wasn't impressed with the name of this season, honestly, because it was just Stadium Quickplay. You know, like Season 16 being called Stadium made sense because it introduced one of the most radical and game-changing additions we have had in years to the game. But to me, like, just naming this season Stadium Quickplay just felt lazy. Just felt like it was lazy. Especially since the addition of Unranked Stadium doesn't really bring anything groundbreaking to the table. At the end of the day, it's just kind of a less competitive, shorter version of the mode that already exists, so it's like, it's nothing new, you know what I mean? That said, I will say the supplemental themes we got this season were much stronger. The poolside theme tied perfectly in with the summer games, and gave the season a very timely, seasonal, summery vibe that fit really well. The other kind of supplemental theme, you could call it that, the streetwear theme, was also a highlight for me. Not only because it looks stylish in-game, it was like really cool, but also because it reminded me of a Puma-inspired collab that I had pitched back in one of my earlier videos on my like top ideas for like my collab concepts. So a lot of the stuff that we ended up getting in the streetwear stuff kind of reminded me of that. So the only difference obviously being that it wasn't attached to an actual brand. However, I still got to say that the lackluster name drags the overall impact of the season's theming down a bit. They could have named it something a whole lot cooler, and it probably would have gotten a way higher rating. But for me, I'm going to give the theming a rating of a C. Moving on to the Battle Pass. Now, the Battle Pass this season was easily one of the best ones I have seen since my return to the game a year ago. Because normally I can pick like a handful of filler items, like this was kind of meh, this was like whatever, maybe a few underwhelming skins here and there, but this time I can only really point to maybe 1 or 2 supplemental items I didn't really care for, and the only real dud in terms of skins was the Gladiator 76 skin. And even then, I still found that skin interesting because it feels like it's kind of priming us for that teased Gladiator tank hero that we expect to get in Season 20, and obviously we're going to have a hero trial for next season in Season 19. So I thought that was kind of interesting, and it seems like from some of the promo stuff for Season 19 that there's going to be other stuff kind of priming us for this big hero release coming in Season 20. So hey, I mean, I figured that you know, that played into it well as well. But where do I even begin with how much cool stuff was packed in this season for the Battle Pass? We got Watermelon Wrecking Ball. Might just be his best skin ever. Streetwear Farah, hands down, sexiest skin to date. Streetwear Tracer, guys, I'd argue that Streetwear Tracer is even better than her Le Seraphim collab skin. Just saying. And I have been obsessed with it like very few skins before it. Streetwear Kiriko also quickly become one of my all-time favorites for her, and her skin library is pretty stacked as well. So even smaller things like the Floral Mari spray that we got, that felt like it was really a lot of just fun, awesome additions to the Battle Pass this season. And on top of that, we also got some landmark firsts in the Battle Pass. Starting out with the first ever universal emote for all heroes, which was a mic drop, like they're winning a rap battle against Eminem. But every hero got the mic drop emote, and it looks really cool. Not only did we get that, we got the first traversal emote for Kiriko, letting her freely skateboard around the map. I wish there was more you could do with it. You can't really do much more other than jump and like skate around, but it's still really cool. Both editions felt really fresh, added real personality to the Battle Pass. The Ultimate Battle Pass, while not as incredible as the past 2 seasons, was still very enjoyable. Because we got a poolside skin for Wu Yang, which was definitely designed to make all the girlies and gays extra thirsty, if you know what I mean. As well as a slick Lily skin for Roadhog that gave him major, like, Miami crime boss, like, Scarface kind of vibes. It really felt like the first Roadhog skin since this Season 13 epic that I have been compelled to even use. So, props on him for that. Both were great pickups. I don't mind getting either of them. Once again, just like with last season, we got dual mythic drops this season at launch. Our mythic hero skin this season was the Ultraviolet Sentinel Sojourn, and while it's not my favorite mythic skin, it's easily in my top 3, like hands down. All of the customization and colorways look great, except for the gilded aspect, which I think kind of falls a bit flat, but I love the way that this Ultraviolet Sentinel Sojourn looks. It's really, really sick. The skin leans very heavily into Sojourn's cybernetic nature, obviously complete with like that robot vocal effect and a digital style reskin for her disruptor shot. My only real nitpick with the skin is that I wish the visor on the tier 2 hairstyle could be a separate customization option, because I really like the hairstyle she wears, but I wish I didn't have to also have her face covered with the visor, you know? But apart from that, which is really just a minor little nitpick, little criticism, it was still fantastic. I love that hero skin. For the mythic weapon this season, we got the Blazing Sunsetter skin for Cassidy. And at first, I really wasn't impressed with this skin from the promo art that I had seen. It looked a little bit bland. Like, even the reactive fire effects on the barrel didn't really, like, wow me. But the second I saw the flourish animations for this one, which was him just, like, spinning the gun around in, like, at least 3 or 4 different ways, I was sold. Man, now every time I play Cass, I spend half the match just twirling that gun around like crazy. If I have some Cass gameplay in this video, you're gonna see me do exactly that, because it is so fun. I ended up buying both of the mythics this season, which is only the second time I've ever actually done that. The first time being back in Season 14 with Reinhardt's mythic skin and Ash's mythic weapon. Obviously, I didn't talk about that because I didn't do my Season 14 retrospective, but yeah, that was the only other time that I bought both mythics in the season. I've never rated a battle pass this high before, but I think this one deserves it. I'm gonna give the battle pass for Season 18 a rating of S tier. Moving on to our favorite section to talk about if you've watched one of these, it is the limited time events and collabs. So, with as many collabs as we got this season, you'd think I would be stoked about that, but honestly, I walked away a little disappointed. If you had told me last year that Season 18 would kick off with 2 collabs running simultaneously, I would have been like, whoa, best season ever. But in practice, both were kind of underwhelming. So the first collab, if you can even really call it that, was the Luka Doncic cross Overwatch 2 Stadium crossover. And really, it really just felt more like a limited time event with some elaborate set dressing. There were no skins, there were no, like, you know, none of that. It was just a limited time event, mostly. But as I understand it, Luka is a pro basketball player for the Los Angeles Lakers, who also happens to be a top 500 Overwatch player. Primarily maining Cass, if I do believe that is correct. So to promote Stadium, Blizzard ran an event where you could try out 3 of Luka's personal Stadium builds, which was 1 for each role. I think there was 1 for Cass, 1 for Lucio, and I'm forgetting what the tank one was. Might have been Reinhardt. Might have been. So you could try his personal Stadium builds for those heroes, and also earn up to 77 loot boxes, since 77 is his jersey number. And you also got some, like, other basketball-themed trinkets and stuff along with that, or other trinkets that kind of, like, tied back to his jersey number, or, you know, his ties to, like, you know, basketball and all that. So I'll admit I did appreciate Luka raining the loot boxes down on me. But I've already kind of fallen out of love with Stadium, and as someone who doesn't really follow basketball, I didn't really have any real connection to him. I didn't think it was super cool or anything that he was collabing with Overwatch. It was just kind of, oh, okay, here's this athlete, okay, whatever. It was nice free stuff, but not something I cared too much about. The other collab that we got at the start of the season was the return of Cowboy Bebop. Now, unlike the Le Seraphim return earlier this year, though, this one only gave us a single new skin for Wrecking Ball based on Ein. And honestly, it didn't even really look that good. Thankfully, it was free through the challenges. You didn't have to buy it. And the older Bebop skins did rotate back into the shop. So that was cool to see. I did grab Sombra's Ed skin, but I didn't really feel the need to collect any of the others. The upside to this collab coming back is that it tells me that older collabs that we haven't seen in a while can come back in the future, not just big ones like Le Seraphim where they make a big announcement about it, but just other collabs that we've had in the past can even just rotate in and give us back the old stuff that we had with those collabs, which makes me hopeful for stuff like the Porsche bundle down the line. I know the Porsche bundle itself has come back at points, but when it came back, I really wasn't in a position to buy it, and then I kind of regretted it after the fact. So I'm kind of hoping that bundle comes back, as well as some other ones maybe down the line. But that's what the Cowboy Bebop collab returning this season said to me. We also got the return of the Summer Games event, which alongside, the usual Olympic-style cosmetics for all the newer heroes that they've released since the last event, Lucio Ball Remix, and Winston's Beach Volleyball did come back. They even experimented by making Lucio Ball third person using Stadium's camera tech, but honestly, it just felt awkward, and it was so bad that they actually just quickly reverted it before the event ended, back to first person only. I think they did have a toggle in the settings where you could change it between first and third person, but yeah, nobody really liked the third person Lucio Ball. And honestly, Summer Games is really just my least favorite event at this point. Like, after 9 years of on and off Lucio Ball, like, I'm just kind of burnt out on it. It was fun when it was new in 2016, especially when, we had the whole big Rio 2016 games, and it seemed like the whole big kind of unofficial crossover with the Olympics. Everything was, like, super cool, but now it just kind of feels stale. It's just like, okay, whatever. It's Summer Games again. So yeah, not super crazy about the Summer Games. Mid-season brought us the Persona 5 collab, or the Phantom Thieves collab officially. The reason why I think it was called the Phantom Thieves collab and not Persona 5 is due to ESRB rating restrictions, because since Overwatch is rated T for teen and Persona 5 is rated M for mature, Overwatch can't legally promote a game whose content is more mature than their own rating. You know what I mean? So they can't legally promote a game that's of a higher rating than them. But between the Joker Wu Yang skin that we got, the Skull Genji, Panther Mercy, Queen Diva, and Fox Lifeweaver skins that we got, the crossover was unmistakable. It's a Persona 5 collab, that's what I'm going to call it. Now, I'm not a huge Persona fan myself, and because I did attempt to play Persona 4 back in the day, and kind of got a bit frustrated when I got soft-locked in that game. I did not realize that revives were limited, so I kind of wasted them all before the first boss, and then when the first boss came around, I couldn't survive, and I just died quickly, so so yeah, I kind of screwed myself with that. If I was to play Persona 4 again, I'd have to completely restart that game from scratch, but I can't deny that this collab went insanely hard. All the skins look fantastic, with Mercy's in particular ranking among her best ever. And honestly, now that I have my top 5 skins for every hero video out, I kind of regret not putting Panther Mercy in there, because my god, it's amazing. And I thought the Persona styled highlight intros that we got were also insanely stylish. The Morgana challenge cosmetics were also a nice freebie. You got to basically get a full set of Morgana cosmetics from the name card to the player icon and all that for free through challenges. So if Morgana was your favorite character, you could easily represent that, which was really cool. My only nitpick is that Juno did not get a Haru skin, which would have been cool since they both share the same voice actress. That would have been kind of fun. But I still love this collab so much. I bought the full bundle for it. it even kind of made me want to give Persona 5 a try. It is on my list of games I might check out in the near future. So, yeah, Persona 5 collab was great. And finally, we got the Overwatch 2 anniversary event, but this year they did it a little bit differently than how they've done it in the past. Usually in the past, they've just kind of put all the modes up at once and just been like, go have fun. But this year, Blizzard split it into 4 weeks, each with unique challenges and 2 returning limited time modes, one being a fun arcade mode from the past, and the other one being one of the Overwatch classics that we've got in the past year. So, week 1 brought back Magic and Mischief, which is their prop hunt mode, as well as Overwatch Classic Launch Patch. And as always, I hate Launch Patch Classic. It is so bad. It is so horrible. You play it and you're like, how did this game ever get popular like this? Like, it is so horrible. But it was fun revisiting Magic and Mischief, as always. I actually started to get pretty halfway decent at Magic and Mischief near the end, so I'm kind of happy about that. In week 2, it was probably my favorite week of the entire event for me, because it included 2 of my favorite modes in it. That one being Mirror Watch, so I got to play around a lot with Support Somber again, all the cool like Mirror Watch skins, like the Talon Reinhardt and all that, you know, Talon Brigitte, like all those cool skins that I missed out on from Season 10. I love when Mirror Watch comes back. It's one of my favorite LTMs of all time. As well as the Overwatch Classic 2017 Moth Meta. Now, I didn't actually play much of the Moth Meta Classic when that came out, because I was so burnt out on the previous Overwatch Classic. I'm like, I don't want to touch this. But now that I have actually gotten to play 2017 Moth Meta, I think it might be my favorite Classic mode of all time. Like, it's great. I think it's probably because that was around the main time that I was really into Overwatch, so it's very, I do have some nostalgia, obviously, for Launch Patch, but I think that the majority of my time with Overwatch was spent in 2017 and 2018, so that's kind of like the most nostalgic mode for me, and man, it's so fun in Overwatch Classic. And in week 3, we got the return of the Totally Normal Watch April Fool's mode, as well as Overwatch Classic GOATS meta. Now, this, to me, in contrast to the previous week, was probably the least fun week of them all, because April Fool's can't really, like, have any staying power with me. It's fun for a bit, but then it just kind of just gets lame really quickly. And the GOATS meta is just kind of the most boring version of Overwatch Classic. It's not busted like Launch Patch, but it's just really boring. To me, like, I think one of the things that made GOATS Classic really annoying was that Doomfist was in, like, 90% of my matches. Like, both my team and the enemy team always had a Doomfist, almost without skipping a beat. There was always a Doomfist in the game. Either one Doomfist or 2 Doomfists, just always in the game at all times. And also, people just generally refusing to play the actual GOATS comp, which is 3 tanks and 3 supports, right? With no DPS. But basically it ended up being, instead, like, 4 DPS and 1 tank and 1 support, and that's generally how people wanted to play GOATS. And I didn't get to experience what made GOATS so infamous in the first place. I think that I did have maybe 1 match out of my entire time with playing Overwatch Classic GOATS that I actually got to play an actual GOATS comp, and that didn't even last for too long. I think it lasted like 1 round before some people switched off onto DPS. So yeah, not super great. There was a legendary loot box given out this week to kind of make up for it, but yeah, not really great for week 3. And finally, in week 4, we saw the return of Junkenstein's Lab and Overwatch Classic October 2020. This is also kind of a lame week for me, because Junkenstein's Lab just kind of feels primitive and archaic now compared to the Stadium game mode it would eventually turn into. It was cool last October, obviously, when it just came out, and we had never seen anything like it before, and we were like, oh my god, this is amazing. But now it just kind of feels like a half-baked version of Stadium. You know, if Stadium had never come out, like, this would have been great, but with Stadium on the in the picture now, it's like kind of whatever. It's a lamer version of Stadium. Obviously, though, October 2020 for Overwatch Classic is one of my more preferred Overwatch Classics as well, because you get to basically play the entire Overwatch 1 roster as it was from basically the release of the last hero all the way up to the death of Overwatch 1. So So yeah, I think that Overwatch Classic October 2020 was probably the better part of this week. And now having tried all 4 of the classic modes, like I say, I think that 2017 Moth Meta is my favorite, followed by October 2020, then GOATS, and then finally Launch Patch, which is just busted and boring as hell. There were also 20 Mythic Prisms given out during Week 4, which was just barely enough to grab a Gilded or Iridescent Aspect if you hadn't gotten one already. I am happy that Blizzard gave us any prisms at all, because they've been notoriously stingy with that for players that, you know, don't buy the Battle Pass, or even if you do buy the Battle Pass, they just give you just enough to get, like, the one Mythic that season, and that's it. Like, they really want you to buy the Mythic Prisms, and they don't give you many, if any at all, opportunities to get Mythic Prisms in other ways. I think the last time that we actually got Mythic Prisms at all was the Xbox Game Pass integration back in Season 12. So I am happy we got some, but to only give out 20 felt a little bit cheap. It felt like they're kind of cheaping out on us. Like, come on, you gave away like 30 for the Xbox Game Pass integration. You probably could have stood to give it like 30 or maybe even 40. You know, just saying. 2020 feels like it was cheaping out on us, Blizzard. But overall, the Persona 5 collab and some of the anniversary event stuff was fun and was a good standout highlight of the season. And it does save it from a failing grade, but the rest of the content really just felt lazy or was just not super interesting to me. That's why I'm going to give the limited time events and collabs a rating of a C. So moving on to our 4th section, which is new and reworked heroes. So we got a lot of stuff to talk about here as well. This season introduced a brand new support hero called Wu Yang. He's a Chinese waterbending fighter who wields the Xuanwu staff, and his kit is packed with a lot of utility, a lot of versatility, though it's not without its drawbacks, in my opinion. So his primary fire creates water orbs that can either be lobbed quickly or charged up, which empowers them with extra damage and lets you also steer them mid-flight while they're in the air. And it's insanely satisfying to like curve one around a corner and just nail an enemy you can't even see, or maybe to hit aerial heroes like Echo and Pharah and watch them try and fail to like dodge these slow-moving but deadly projectiles. I think his primary fire is easily the highlight of his kit. Like, it gives Wu Yang a skill expression that really feels unique to him. But when you look at the rest of his kit, you're going to start to see a problem with it. And it starts with his secondary fire, which is Restorative Stream, which it's essentially a mashup of other heroes' healing mechanics. Because basically, if you use it passively, it functions like Zenyatta's Harmony Orb, which basically locks onto an ally, heals them over time, right? But actively, it can be focused into a Mercy-style healing beam that locks onto an ally and like kind of heals them, but also has the limited resource pool of Alari's Solar Rifle. While functional and flexible, this ability doesn't really feel particularly fresh. And Rushing Torrent, his first ability, is basically just Juno's glide boost without like the hovering, right? And without locking you into like one specific horizontal direction. It lets Wu Yang surf a wave and gives him a short speed boost and enhanced jump height. And Guardian Wave, his second ability, is a staff slam that sends a tidal wave forward, and it kind of works like a hybrid of Anna's Biotic Grenade and Lucio's Sound Wave. So basically, allies caught in it received amplified healing, while enemies take chip damage and are moved back a little bit. And finally, his ultimate Tidal Blast envelops Wu Yang or an ally in a sphere of water, granting heavy overhealth before detonating after a delay to knock down nearby enemies. So it's kind of like a watered-down, pun definitely not intended, watered-down Reinhardt Earth Shatter that's kind of wrapped up in a defensive buff. And to me, that's the biggest issue with Wu Yang, is outside of his primary fire, most of his abilities just feel like a direct remix of existing mechanics. And on top of that, despite some recent nerfs, I still think he feels too damage-centric. It's not as extreme as his Hero Trial days, mind you, where you can basically just refuse to heal anybody and still win matches. But his current balance skews a bit too far forward into DPS over support. He's certainly fun to play, certainly viable, but he doesn't bring the same freshness or personality that recent heroes like Juno or Hazard or Freya have. into Overwatch 2. And even his character identity, right? Like he's just a chill guy who's trying to impress his family. Like, it feels flat. It feels uninspired compared to the much stronger personalities we've seen in Overwatch lately. So yeah, Wu Yang is solid, but he's far from exciting. In addition to Wu Yang, we also saw a major rework, or more accurately, a dework for Roadhog. So basically, Blizzard just gave up on his Overwatch 2 redesign, reverted him back to his old Overwatch 1 kit, so his shotgun once again now fires separately with primary and secondary fires for close and long range. His take a breather ability is back on ability 2 instead of his alternate fire. The only thing they have retained from his Overwatch 2 version is keeping that take a breather on a resource meter. That's it. Everything else functions like old Overwatch 1 Roadhog. That's it. And the end result is a Roadhog who feels very simplistic and frustrating. Without the ping pen trap introduced into his earlier rework, I think his kit just lacks a lot of depth. At the same time, he's not even as threatening as he once was, because unless the enemy is really already fairly low on health, you can't even really reliably secure kills with the hook and scrap gun combo anymore. Like, it just doesn't work. Yet his hook also feels far more forgiving than before in terms of what it can latch onto. It's almost reminiscent of his busted launch patch version, though not quite that bad. It leaves Roadhog just kind of feeling like he's in this awkward middle ground where he's less lethal than before, but still aggravating to play against, or even more aggravating to play against than he was before. So overall, this is just a huge step backwards. It's a lazy reversion that doesn't do justice to one of Overwatch's most iconic tanks. And like, I get the fact that they didn't like how his pig pen was just being used to help secure the scrap gun hook combo. Instead of being used as more of an area denial tool. They didn't like how players were using it, so that's why they got rid of it. But man, I don't really like it. So between Wu Yang and the Roadhog dework, I gotta give this section a rating of a C. Moving on to our Stadium updates on Section 5. So obviously, since the season was named after it, the biggest change to Stadium was the addition of the Quickplay version. And this iteration uses a best of 5 round format instead of the best of 7 round format we see in competitive Stadium, with heroes gaining their powers much faster at rounds 1, 2, 3, and 5. And while I do miss the early days of Stadium, where it felt kind of more like a laid-back kind of competitive mode where you could just kind of grind points and nobody would really care if you weren't great, the fact that competitive Stadium has kind of become overrun now and dominated by toxic sweats has really made unranked Stadium feel like a welcome addition to the game. There's far less pressure to perform, far less pressure to come in with optimized builds, and it really just gives players a freedom to learn heroes, experiment with powers and builds, and just have fun. You know, like video games are supposed to be. It has become my preferred way to play Stadium this season in particular. So on the competitive side, there was also some changes. The major change was the introduction of the hero draft system. Instead of the traditional hero select screen, teams now take turns picking heroes in order similar to MOBAs like League of Legends, right? You can also request swaps in the draft order with teammates to kind of help strategize better. And on paper, this system was kind of supposed to solve the problem of being hard countered before a match like even begins, since you can adjust your picks based on what the enemy's locking in, right? But in practice, I feel like it hasn't really quite worked out. Although Stadium's hero roster really just isn't deep enough yet for this to feel meaningful. And when Blizzard initially made heroes 1 per match, the backlash to that was so swift and so overwhelming that they literally reverted it within like 2 or 3 days of the system being out. Like, it was awful. Many players, I think, who are used to Overwatch's flexible hero access, they really weren't willing to accept just being locked out of their favorites. And like I said, the restriction was lifted within just days of the season launching. And again, I think that part of that can also be contributed to, like I said, the very small, limited hero roster in Stadium. I don't think Stadium's just there yet in terms of being able to have a draft system feel meaningful when you have so few heroes that you know, especially if you are having it one per match, that somebody's favorite is going to get picked and they're going to be bad, you know. So I see why they got rid of it, but I think without the one hero limit, the draft loses a lot of its strategic weight, especially, like I say, with that limited roster, leaving competitive Stadium feeling just less competitive than intended. We also got a brand new game mode this season in Stadium for both ranked and unranked called Payload Race. So this came with 2 new maps, the Fames District, which is based on King's Row, and Powder Keg Mine, which is based on Route 66. So each team in this mode has a mini payload to escort, which creates kind of like this tug-of-war dynamic between both sides, as they're both able to contest simultaneously. I do think the Payload Race is a fun addition, but it's kind of like a coin toss in terms of like if it's fun or not. Because matches are either really incredibly close and thrilling, or they're like just one-sided snowball blowouts where one team just easily locks down the fight, keeps a lot of the enemy team contested at the first like choke point, and then one player on their team is just able to run away with their payload completely uncontested, and the enemy team can't do anything, you know. So it's kind of a coin toss in that sense of, you know, if it's a good match or not. I think that unpredictability though does make some of the good matches even more exciting. And on top of this, the Garden Point of Oasis was added as a new stadium control map. So like the maps introduced last season, basically just a port from core Overwatch, but stadium-specific flourishes that they do, like the billboards and everything, and the spawn system, give it a really fresh personality, I think. So speaking of the roster for Stadium, it got expanded yet again with not 3 but 4 new heroes joining Stadium this season. And at launch, we got Winston, Pharah, and Brigitte, followed at mid-season by Tracer. So much like last season, I found the tank, which was obviously Winston this time, to be the most fun, right? Followed by the support. And the DPS addition, which is obviously Pharah, was easily the weakest. I think that she feels kind of clunky and easily countered by heroes like Ashe and Freya, right? I mean, she's like that in the core game too, but I think that the amplified nature of Stadium makes her even easier to counter with those heroes. And usually, heroes that I typically struggle with in core Overwatch usually have some kind of like Stadium build that kind of makes them more accessible to me. But I just couldn't get much value out of Freya, despite being halfway decent, or Pharah, I should say. Despite being halfway decent with Pharah in the main game. Now maybe it's just the third-person camera, maybe it's just I had bad build luck, I didn't do a right build on her, but she didn't really click with me. However, thankfully, Tracer arrived, like I said, at mid-season, and completely flipped that around. Although she was taken out of the game for a significant amount of time, and I didn't get to play as much with her as I would have liked, because there were some bugs with her that were breaking Stadium, so they had to temporarily disable her, so I didn't get to enjoy her as much as I liked, but the time I did have with her was great. She quickly became my favorite DPS in Stadium, with a third-person perspective making her feel far more controllable and easier to play than in core Overwatch. Plus she has some really killer skins, like I say, like that Streetwear Tracer. I love that skin, get to admire it even more now in third person while zipping around. So with the draft system and Pharah being the only real stumbles, Stadium still, I think, had a very strong season overall. That's why I'm going to give it a rating of an A. So moving on to number 6, which is going to be fairly quick because it's map updates. And apart from the new Stadium maps, which I've already mentioned, there really wasn't any core map updates this season worth noting. As such, there's nothing to rate here. Gets a rating of NA. We're going to move on. So moving on to number 7, we have quality of life improvements. So this season brought an absolute buttload of quality of life changes, maybe the most we've seen packed into a single season yet. And the biggest shift by far has to be Progression 2.0. So previously, all the heroes' base cosmetics were available to buy just right away, with credits in the hero gallery, but now a large chunk of those base cosmetics are instead tied to your hero level. And as you play and rank up each hero, you automatically unlock cosmetics along with other rewards like credits, player icons, titles, name cards, and even every variant of loot boxes. So to make the transition fair and accessible to everyone, Blizzard retroactively granted players progression rewards based on their pre-existing hero levels and refunded credits for cosmetics that were rolled into the new system. So this meant that in addition to the 77 loot boxes that you can get from the Luka Doncic event, many players logged in to find themselves with 50 or more loot boxes that had come purely from retroactive progression. Because this basically made it feel like Christmas had come early. So loved that. So also with Progression 2.0, your top 5 heroes are now displayed on the progression screen, and your top 3 heroes appear on new profile cards at the hero select screen. These are just basically replacing just the plain hero icons we had before. We still have the hero icons there, obviously, but they added these whole card system things on top of it. And these cards also show your chosen title, and stuff like that, and I actually love this change. I think it gives players a lot more individuality and expression right from the start of the match. Like previously, the only way you get to see somebody's title is if you're playing a competitive match, right? If you play a competitive match and their whole name card and everything pops up, you get to see it. But this way, you get to see everybody's title regardless of the mode you're in, because it just pops up on the card, which is nice. Though I have seen some toxicity kind of popping up around this card system, because, especially in competitive, because if a player locks in someone who's outside of their displayed top 3, they can start getting, bitched at and yelled at. It's like, why are you playing, why are you playing Ana when your Juno is level, 57? You know what I mean? So yeah, I've seen some people complain about it, but they did minimize the problem by making the cards hidden by default unless you hover your mouse over them, and also giving you the option in stream mode to just turn those top 3 heroes off just entirely, if you want to do that. So that's great. So once a hero hits level 20, they become ascended, and their border around their hero icon starts to glow. And the effect gets cooler the higher you go. You start getting a purple glow at 40, and then yellow with lightning at 60. Plus, you also get new hero mastery icons at levels 25, 50, 75, and 100. So, I think that this is a fantastic way to show off your dedication. There have been many moments this season where I'll load into a match and see somebody who's a level 876 on Hanzo, and I'm like, okay. You obviously know what you're doing with Hanzo. I don't need to question you, bud. You're good. However, with that being said, though, I still think that hero progression feels a bit too slow, because I've realized that because it's based on XP, it really matters whether or not you have challenges to do. When you're doing your daily, weekly, and event challenges that usually hand out anywhere between 5,000 and 10,000 XP by completing them, the leveling pace feels fine. It feels nice and fair. It feels like you're, progressing at a decent pace. But once all those run out and you're just playing these regular matches, it slows to an absolute snail's pace. There is one instance this season where I was level 24 on Bastion, and I saw that, level 25 gets me a loot box. I'm just gonna quickly play, 2 or 3 games, rank up on Bastion. Nope, that ended up taking me almost a week. A week of games on and off to hit that next level on Bastion, because I had already done all my challenges. I was done with that. I was just earning 200 XP per match, and it just wasn't getting me anywhere in terms of hero progression. So I think that's kind of a problem. And combine that with the fact that so many of these base cosmetics are now locked behind progression, it basically makes credits feel useless, right? Because there's very little to spend them on anymore, unless maybe you want to go into the player icons, spend some on player icons or whatever. But yeah, there's just not enough to spend credits on anymore, and I certainly miss being able to use them quickly at the start of a new hero release to buy a bunch of the new base cosmetics for new heroes as it come out. You can't do that anymore. It's a lot of it's just tied to the progression system, which kind of sucks. And also the name cards. The name cards you unlock, they're not unique name cards. They're just recolors of the old level-based cards that you would previously unlock from the previous progression system. They're the same thing, just colored differently 6 different times. So I would love to see a lot more like original artistic name cards instead of those just basic 6 color swap versions of the same thing. Another big addition we got this season was the advanced information panel. So now when you look at a hero select screen, you can now interact with the hero select screen, like the hero info screen that shows you the abilities and the weapons and everything. You can interact with it and now drill into deep detail on each part of their kit and see advanced stats like exact damage numbers, ranges, cooldowns, spread values, fire rates, charge times, so much more. The only omissions currently are stuff like ultimate cost and perk data, though Blizzard has said they do plan to add those later on to the advanced information panel. While I haven't really used this feature much myself because I don't really have the brain space to memorize dozens of numbers per hero, I still think it's a great move to bring that info in-game rather than forcing players to solely rely on the Overwatch wiki and just players myth-busting every single patch to see what works. So, yeah, great that they brought that information into the game. A much more controversial but important change, I do believe, was the native mouse and keyboard support on console. Now, I don't play on console, I'm on PC, but I want to talk about this because it does directly affect both groups of players, both the console players and the PC players. So, for the first time, console players can plug in a mouse and keyboard directly without getting banned. And when they do, they're automatically moved into the PC pool with a completely separate elo from their console account. And also attempts to zim around the system and still use mouse and keyboard in the console pool are still bannable. It's still considered a zim. It's still considered bannable. You can't do that. So it forces you to join the PC pool, and if you try to get around that, you're going to get banned. Importantly, though, this also only works one way, so PC players can't just plug in a controller and play on the console side and gain aim assist and stuff like that. It's not going to work. And from my experience in PC, I have not really noticed any real disruption in matchmaking or even match quality in terms of you know how the players in my matches are. If I hadn't actually read the patch notes, I wouldn't even know that there's now console players with a mouse and keyboard in my games. Wouldn't have even been able to know the difference. There have been some reports that I've heard of legitimate like console mouse and keyboard users who are trying to use this system being wrongly flagged as attempting to zim because there are particular brands of keyboard that also manufacture cheating devices that are getting wrongfully flagged by Blizzard as zimming. Hopefully Blizzard sorts those edge cases out, but overall I think this change is a healthy one for the game's longevity. We also got a new toxic chat filter, so instead of just censoring the individual words like we used to do, the system now just completely hides the entire offending message and gives you the option to reveal it with a single click if you do in fact want to see it and want context. It also adds a one-button option to report this message after you open it. I think this is a smart tool, especially for very sensitive players like me who can't handle toxicity very well, though it isn't foolproof. The filter often fails to catch toxicity if the players are kind of like splitting messages up between multiple lines, if they're avoiding specific keywords, if they use coded language or spell words incorrectly, or stuff. So it's not perfect, but it's yet another sign of progress, a really good sign of progress, I think, in addressing that toxicity problem. Also, if you're a new player to Overwatch, congratulations, you got another huge win from Blizzard here for you. In particular, because now all heroes are now unlocked from the start of the game with all accounts, not just the most recent additions to the roster. I know when my Overwatch team was getting started up, it was such a pain because a lot of the heroes were locked from the start, and a lot of my friends had to just grind through dozens of quick play matches to unlock everyone. And no more of that. No more grinding through these matches to catch up with friends. It's been a major complaint, I think, from the player base for years. So now, all 44 heroes are going to be unlocked from the start. You don't have to worry about it. On the competitive side, we also saw the return of the old SR system, which is the 0 to 5,000 system, if you remember that, from Overwatch 1. However, this time it was reimagined as Hero SR. So instead of directly affecting matchmaking, Hero SR is purely cosmetic, and it shows you your performance with individual heroes once you played at least 5 games with them after your placements are done. I think the idea is definitely neat because like you could be gold overall, but like plat on a specific hero. And while initially I did find it a little discouraging when my hero SR was lower than my displayed rank, making me feel like, oh, am I like really as good as the game is telling me? Because the hero SR says I'm garbage, but my actual rank says I'm not. So you know, am I just bad? Like, I don't know. But I found that changed the more I actually played competitive. Even after I had received my hero SR, I still think the system needed a little bit more calibration in terms of, you know, correctly calculating my hero SR. Because as the system calibrated, it eventually kind of leveled out to be roughly accurate with my perceived skill across different heroes. Though my earlier point does still stand, it can kind of be frustrating when the numbers don't align at first, but give it enough time, it eventually seems to settle into something that's really fair and reflective of your actual skill on that hero. Also, Blizzard tested out some new competitive rewards. So while we've had weapon skins for a long time for competitive rewards, we actually got to get a competitive hero skin this season, and it was a galactic hero skin. Kind of to go along with the galactic weapons that we got introduced in Season 15. But it was only for Freya, and it was only for players who were ranked Diamond and above in any role. Now, personally, I never unlocked it myself because I'm not that good at the game, but I do like the idea of competitive rewards being hero skins. Even if they are really only meant for the upper echelon of the player base, because I have been in games this season where I see somebody with that galactic Freya skin, and I'm like, oh, you hit Diamond. Or you either hit Diamond or above. We might be cooked, or we might win this, you know. So it's really cool to see that as like a big status symbol in the game. On top of that, the requirement to unlock competitive has been lowered to just 20 quick play games for new accounts, which does feel like a fair barrier to entry. Lever penalties were also adjusted. And this first debuted in Stadium at the season's launch and was then rolled into the core competitive queue at mid-season. So if a player outside of your group leaves and you lose the match because of it, your SR loss is significantly reduced. It doesn't go away completely, but you do lose a lot less SR than before, which takes away a lot of the frustration of being punished for things that are outside of your control, right? Obviously, group and self-leaves still carry full penalties, as they should, but this was a very long overdue change to the game. And finally, AI bots were added to Stadium custom games at mid-season. They're just as brain dead as the core games bots, obviously, but they're perfect for testing builds without affecting actual real matches, which is something that I have wanted since custom Stadium games got introduced into the game. So all in all, Season 18 delivered a mountain of quality of life improvements. Some features like Progression 2.0 still need a little bit of tweaking to fix pacing and reward structures, but it's hard not to be impressed with the sheer volume of changes we got this season. It was a big step forward to the overall health of the game. That's why I'm going to give it a rating of a B. So moving on to our final section to talk about, that is going to be the monetization and store items. So before we even get into the bundles, I wanted to touch on the starter pack for Season 18. This time we got the Pasque Moira skin. And honestly, this has probably been the weakest starter pack skin that I've seen since my return to the game. Nothing about it really stood out. It really felt just really bland and uninspired. I've seen a lot better starter packs than this one. Even other epic skins in the starter pack, right? That being said, I still ended up grabbing it because the starter pack is really just a great way to pick up 1,000 Overwatch coins if you need them, because you get 1,000 Overwatch coins plus the free skin on top of it. Even if you're not going to use it very often, it's still a nice thing to grab if you're going to do that. From there, though, the shop cosmetics absolutely took off and didn't let up the entire season. We started with the poolside set for Mercy, Junker Queen, Alari, Reinhardt, and Ashe. While Ashe's was just technically a recolor of her old summer skin. The pink, white, and turquoise palette for the recolor was so well done. I think it's become one of the best recolors in Overwatch history, hands down. The rest of the skins also were absolutely phenomenal. Mercy's poolside, again, might be one of her best skins of all time. And with noticing how stacked her skin library is, that's saying something. And Junker Queen's shark-themed outfit perfectly nailed that mix between like sexy and goofy, and it really fit her personality. Alari's poolside skin, easily her hottest yet. Awesome fan service with that. I loved it. The highlight intro, oh my god, bro. Absolutely loved it. Yeah, it was fan service of the highest order with that. And Reinhardt's skin also kind of balanced humor and a little bit of that like sexiness into his style perfectly with like that massive toy splash hammer. Though I'll admit it was kind of a missed opportunity that it didn't squeak when you hit people with it. I'm a little bit peeved about that, but it was great nonetheless. This bundle was clearly inspired by the summer set we got teased with back in last year's skin survey, though I was a little bit disappointed that we didn't get May's skin in this bundle, because hers was probably my favorite out of that whole skin survey. Even so, what we did get was an absolute banger. Nearly everything in this bundle felt like a must-buy. I didn't get it. Next up, we got the Floral Bundle, featuring Hydrangea Kiriko, Forget-Me-Not Juno, Pink Lotus Symmetra, and Blue Lotus Ana. And every skin in this set was absolutely stunning. Each one of them was drenched in detail and elegance. Juno's was probably the weakest, because it was only really just a simple violet, blue, and white scheme going on with that. But I do feel like the diamond embedded in her weapon elevated it quite a lot, in my opinion. Kiriko's Hydrangea skin had really beautiful floral accents and even worked in some like wedding motifs into her Ofuda and everything, which made it look super cool, super thematic. Symmetra's Pink Lotus look, though, oh my god, drop dead gorgeous. Probably my favorite in this set. One of my favorite skins of all time for Symmetra. And Anna's Blue Lotus skin also kind of reshaped her face ever so slightly, kind of giving her a even more striking presence. So this was another set that I absolutely couldn't pass up. After that, the shop came roaring back once again with the Music Festival bundle. So Juno, Ashe, Pharah, Sombra, and Mercy were all reimagined as Rave Queens, and every single one of these skins was a knockout. Bright neon palettes, bold styling, tons of personality made them some of the most fun cosmetics in recent memory. I honestly really can't pick a favorite because they were all so damn good. Though it's hard to ignore just how stacked Pharah was this season between her streetwear skin and her Music Festival look. Both insanely hot, both instantly shut up in the ranks of her best skins ever. And Juno's is like just an absolute visual treat to behold. I love that Juno skin as well. Alongside the new bundles, Blizzard also kind of dipped their toes back into the Overwatch League vault to bring back older skins such like the Ange de la Mort Widowmaker and the Rock Climber Zarya. Still no Alien Zarya. I'm a little pissed about that. But we did get Rock Climber Zarya. And also introduced a brand new Solaris bundle of Overwatch League recolors. So unfortunately, this was the only low point of the season's shop lineup, because the recolors were basically just white and gold retakes on Zenaki G, Zenyatta, Luchador Reaper, Goat Brigitte, and Wicked Moira. And they just didn't really land for me. The original versions of these skins were never really favorites of mine, and this recolor set didn't really improve them in any way. It was the only bundle this season that I didn't even consider buying. And then finally, near the end of the season, came the Streetwear bundle, which gave Hazard, Sombra, Freya, and Reaper stylish new looks. So Hazard skin is probably the weakest here, mostly because it just kind of reminds me too much of Hanzo's Streetwear skin from years back, but the rest were absolutely fantastic. Freya's was easily my top pick, giving her this like kind of edgy, kind of punk vibe to her, which is really cool. Sombra's came in a very close second. Love the colors and suit on that one. Very nice. Even Reaper's like stood out a lot with the way that they kind of reworked Reaper's face, much like they did with Ana in the Flora bundle, right? Giving him a kind of a very fresh, unique kind of look that we haven't really seen before. So never has a season of shop cosmetics felt this consistently strong, from the poolside fan service to the stylish streetwear looks, man. From the chaos of the Music Festival lineup to the gorgeous floral designs, Season 18 shop was absolutely overflowing with hits. Apart from that really kind of boring Solaris set, it was absolutely wall-to-wall bangers. Like easily the strongest shop I've seen since I've been back playing Overwatch 2. That's why I got to give it a rating of an S. So, in conclusion, which is our final section, giving you the final rating for this season, Season 18 Stadium Quickplay has been a season of very high highs and kind of low lows. While Blizzard did deliver some of the absolute best cosmetics we've ever seen between both the Battle Pass and the shop, other areas like the collabs and Roadhog's D-work and the underwhelming theming, it kind of kept the season from really reaching its true potential. Stadium Quickplay was a welcome addition. The quality of life features like Progression 2.0, the text chat filter, and the console and mouse and keyboard support were all great, show Blizzard's commitment to really investing in the long-term health of the game, but in the end, though, the sharp contrast between the peaks and valleys of content kind of held the season back. Had the lows not dragged as hard, this easily could have been one of the all-time great seasons of Overwatch 2. But as it stands, it was still an enjoyable and content-rich season, just not a very consistent one. That's why I'm going to give Season 18 Stadium Quickplay an overall rating of B. But that's going to do it for me here, guys. Remember, guys, if you like the video, like it. If you didn't, leave a dislike, subscribe if you haven't already. And as always, I'm Passion, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.
Yeah. Tell me on a pop up on the screen what you know about it. Pick it up and say hello to me. You won't live without it. Empty flesh, it tastes like